Hey, everybody. Welcome to episode 84 of the Almost Daily Show with your host, Chandler, and
the Dave Picardi.
We're super excited to bring you this show. We actually had a call right before this happened, and then we logged on. We delayed the show by a couple of minutes, and now we decided we were just going to jump on and shoot from the hip without any sort of topic that we've developed beforehand, and we're just going to see where this show takes us. I think it's going to be sunshine and gumdrops.
Well, it's going to have to be sunshine and gumdrops. I think it's our specialty anyways. Produce some good content, talk about relevant topics, and have fun. And we can just do that, I think, because we're built for it.
Exactly. That's what we do. And we find a lot of the time that people tend to try to be too ready for things. And when they're too ready for things, they tend to fall apart, or it doesn't go the way they want it to, or it's not real or sincere. And so we're big fans of just one and done, shoot from the hip, figure it out as you go. Obviously, we prep for when we work with clients and stuff like that. But when we do shows, it's let's do this. What are we going to talk about? All right, here's a sentence. And then we make a whole 20-minute show out of it.
We can do it.
We can do anything.
So we get a new type of a client. And it's interesting because we're actually diving into and analyzing, because it's what we do, is we look at the overall picture and where money needs to be spent and what's the best spend for it. But we're going to end up diving into traditional radio advertisement as possible options, and geo-targeting in certain areas as possible options, which is different. A lot of the service-based businesses are so local, and so you can kind of draw a radius around their facility. But when you actually take on regions, it changes it a little bit, and where your ad spend goes, it matters. And so you really can't shoot at the hip when you're spending money. You have to have a better game plan.
Yeah, and it's interesting once you go from local to global, you put yourself in a position to where you're not just like targeting your local area. You're not targeting just a small subset of people. You generally don't have as limited of a budget that you would when you're working with local businesses. So when we work with national businesses or even global businesses, and we got a couple big apps that we're working with that are launching, and it comes down to where are the target. First thing we have to figure out is where the attention is, where the target client's at, who is your target client, what are you doing with it, and where do you want to get, and how do you want to be portrayed. Then it turns into, all right, so we want these kind of people in this kind of area who have these kind of tastes. And then we can go and look at, okay, where is this demographic at? Is this demographic listening to the radio on the way to work? Are they a Spotify demographic listening to Spotify on the way to work? Do they listen to any sort of podcast? Are they on social media? What kind of social media are they at? Is traditional radio advertising a good idea, or can we get a better bang for our buck with something else? There's a lot of different variables that have to go into it. And you'll find traditional agencies will just charge you a shitload of money up front and skim off the top for the ad spend that they supposedly charge you. But what we do is we try to find where we're going to maximize our availability to spend money and make money in return, because that's where we kind of want to be. We want to make this an ethical pathway, and we want to make sure that the clients we work with are getting the value that they need to get from us, which pulls us away from the traditional mentality of an agency and puts us more into a long-term partnership with the clients. And you'll find maybe different things work now, maybe different things won't work in the future, but we have to develop a plan of action. And we really have to understand, especially in the app game, we have to understand how we're going to maximize downloads and how we're going to get people to pull out their phone and click get or download right there. Or how can we set this up as a pre-order and build up a large enough list to where we launch it, there's enough people to download it on the first day and we have a successful launch.
Yeah. And like you said, again, we're really good at managing the overall project and where to spend the money. And so that's our core product, is more of a management fee on a monthly basis to have us dive into it with you and help you make decisions and spend the right money. And then, if you need us to do anything on top of that, we obviously are set up to handle adding the services that we do, but we're ultimately not in it to make $1 million off individual clients, especially when you see, like we just look and we get quotes coming back, it's interesting, the different radio stations, some of them that are actually pretty popular, and it's 10 grand for, to say 30 days, 45 days. And some are coming back 50 grand for the same time frame, if you take somebody's budget, maybe they thought, I have a big budget for marketing to launch this thing, and I have $50,000. We can drop that in one spot in just one area pretty quickly. And it's ultimately, it's about where can you get the biggest like market penetration and actually return on your money first. And it's different for every business, every market, every region. And then after you've taken care of that, what are the big strategic things if we want to go spend really good money on big bangs for our buck after, we take care of the most important part, which is kind of market saturation for as cheap as possible first, unless you have plenty of money.
And it comes down to what is our focus? Where do we want to be? And looking at radio stations, they're desperate. They'll quote you for 50K and you can move them all the way down to 5K because they're so incredibly desperate, because Facebook's taken all their awareness, Spotify's taken their awareness, Pandora's taken everything from them. And they're really just hoping and praying they can get clients. And right now it's a lot of bigger brands or a lot of local brands they send their little notebook to them and say, look at all the impressions we'll give you. And we promise you'll get a return. And then when you ask them, well, how do you measure the return? They say, well, we don't know. And you have yourself with clickable links people can memorize, or some sort of word they can text from the radio station. So on your side, you have to say, okay, if we want to be able to measure this and understand what the return on investment for this radio program is, we need something that people can do while listening to it to get in contact with us. And a side note, it's probably dangerous to tell them to text while driving while listening to the radio, but if you text us now, you'll get this. But that's how we can kind of get some sort of exposure, some sort of understanding of what the return is. How many people are texting that code? How many people are redeeming whatever we gave them? How many people are actually doing it? And how many people are we building as a result? And if you, over time, it's not returning anything and it's not building the brand in the direction you want it to go, then it turns into something that you just have to throw out. And it's about testing and understanding. Radio sounds cool, but sometimes it's not all of that it's cracked up to be. Sometimes it's great. It depends on your market. And then we look at things like, okay, so is it radio or is it streaming? And that's the difference between millennial and the older populations. The older populations aren't necessarily listening to Pandora, Spotify, SoundCloud, and all that. The younger ones are listening to that stuff. So then you say, okay, which one's better? Because right now we're testing beta Spotify ads. Well, people listen to that. And that actually works really well in gyms, because you put on Spotify, most gyms don't pay for the ad-free listening experience. So then they get whatever's going on the ad while they're listening, or not most gyms, most people don't pay for the ad-free listening experience. So they get the advertisement right in front of them. And it's so unique, they actually listen to it. Because you can't really skip past the Spotify ad. You're stuck there listening to the thing.
And people at other gyms, traditional gyms, right? They're full of people with headsets on. So they're going to get that type of an advertisement. And something else that I think is important is the cost of advertisement is so much cheaper on social compared to traditional. If you want to figure out what's going to work and what people are going to respond to and do your testing and improve the concept of your product, do it on social first. And as you start fine-tuning the message and the type of response you get, then you can make any sort of bigger investment into traditional advertisement because you've already worked it out and you don't have to waste money to figure it out. Because a lot of the large firms, they spend a lot of money to figure things out before they actually launch a successful campaign.
Yeah, and we find a lot of the larger firms cater to really big businesses, and those guys just, hey, we have all this money, this is what we want. And it's not the firm's responsibility to necessarily try to convince them they need something else. You're there to service that client. And if you don't think what they're doing is the right path, then it's your responsibility to say no to that client. But one of the cheapest forms of advertising right now that people don't focus on enough, or don't even very much, because it requires a little bit of human connection and communication, is the micro influencer market. So you find somebody with anywhere from 10,000 to 50,000 followers on Instagram or Facebook or whatever your platform is, and you get them to talk about your product or service. You get them to tell their audience about it. You get them to organically tell people why it's cool, and then you organize something. Maybe you pay them per post. You pay them when someone downloads your app. You pay them when someone uses their code or whatever. But influencers are huge because they already have a fairly large market of people who care about what they're doing. From the 10 to 50K range, they're not going to be incredibly expensive. You may be anywhere from $50 to $100 per post, if that, or they're going to get a return on when people download your things. But then you get this massive bang for your buck. You get this person who's putting your information in front of 10 to 50,000 of their followers. And if you're a really large business, you can get the people in the 50,000 plus that tend to be a little bit more expensive. But when you look at working with micro influencers and you're doing a national campaign, you could literally go to every single locality or every single little area that you want to get into and find the people with the largest followings, get your product in their hands and have them start talking about it. And if you did this in a whole full national thing and you have 50 people talking about it with all these followers, you're going to have this massive guerrilla style approach to marketing where your thing gets exploded from the inside out and you don't have to do as much in terms of traditional advertising.
Yeah, it's the fastest way to grow. It's the relationship way to go. It is, the hardest thing to do is build your own following, your own community. It's expensive, takes time. And so partner up with people and use theirs. I mean, if your product's good and the people that you're partnering up with, see it as it won't affect their reputation, they will push you, and they'll push you to an audience that trusts them. And that's what an audience is. It's people that are listening to you because you've built trust over time. And yeah, you'll get a percentage of all those followings, that greater audience. So you can definitely build a faster network that way and get a bigger return on your investment that way.
Yeah, it's huge. And even if you're a local business, this works. You find whoever your little local celebrity is, there's always somebody that everybody wants to be like or cares about or follows. And you get that person to talk about your stuff. And all of a sudden now everybody locally knows what you're doing. And you can even be crafty with this. You can take what your business is and go get on podcasts with every single business that's the same as yours, but you're siphoning everybody's network into yours. And they're all going to be happy to get on your podcast and talk to you and hang out and do Facebook Lives together. But in reality, what you're doing is you're taking all the awareness around what everybody else is doing and pulling it into yours. And so if you're local, it's probably even easier. Once a week, go talk to somebody. Say, hey, you want to do a podcast with me or a Facebook Live? Yes. Okay. 20 minutes done. And then you're going to put it out. You're going to share it to them. They're going to share it with their networks. And then all of a sudden, you're going to have this huge infrastructure of growth that you're producing from this little influencer strategy.
Yeah, it's something that it's probably important to recognize in yourself if you're looking at this. If it goes back to if you have a good product and you're good at what you do, what you're saying and your information matters. It's good stuff. And so if somebody does have a good following and they have built a really good network, they did it because they're actually talking about relevant stuff and doing shows and with people like you that have relevant things to say. And so you might not have the audience size that they have, but it doesn't mean that you being on a show with them doesn't provide value to their network, because they need that as well to maintain freshness in the network and talk about great topics and things like that. So just remember that there is value in what you're doing. You're not just trying to use these people. Strategically working together to create content that people enjoy and listen to and want to re-engage with is very important for both sides, small followings and large followings.
Yeah, we find that when you work with influencers, it's not just about saying like, hey, will you just put my product in front of you and tell people it's cool? It's, hey, I want to talk to you guys a little bit about what we do and see if we can work together. Maybe we can jump on a podcast. I'll look at what you do. I'll introduce it to my network. We'll talk a little bit, and then we'll jump on this podcast or this Facebook Live. And we'll kind of go through and talk about it and talk about what you do. We'll do a tour of your place. We'll do whatever it is that you want to do and whatever you want to talk about. And so you want to make sure that you don't push these people into being salesmen for you. What they are is they're just organically growing what you're doing through their own storytelling and through their own networks. And that's when you get the best bang for your buck, when it's normal. You don't want the guy who's like, hey, caffeine and kilos coffee sure is great. And then they go like this and they show it 14 times and then click the link in my bio for 39% off this product. I don't think Caffeine and Kilos actually does that, but you don't want that. You want them to be like talking on the Facebook Live about what they do and what's going on. And then they take a drink and it's, oh, hey, that's Caffeine and Kilos or whatever. Or they take the coffee and they're like, wow, this is delicious. And they do a whole episode on how to brew cold brew coffee with it. So you want to make sure that you give some value, you tell a story, and you make sure that it's creative and fun. And it's the way the influencer wants to do it. You should never hand them a script and say, this is what we're going to talk about. You should say, hey, just want to talk about what you're doing. I want to ask you some questions about what we do, and then let's talk about how it integrates together, how it makes sense. Let's tell a story, give some value behind it. And then you put yourself in a position to where you're going to establish trust and keep trust, and people aren't going to feel like you're just always trying to get your stuff in front of them, because nobody wants to be sold anymore. Everybody wants to be given some value first.
Yeah, you just nailed it, value. Right? So, the mistake in marketing is that it's sell, 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 sell. right? Offer after offer. We need people, buy my product. And there's a place for that, but that's the, it's the last part of the chain. You need to build rapport with people, trust with people. They need to, no one's going to purchase from you unless you're giving stuff away for cheap and free and 90% off and all that stuff, unless they actually trust that when they give you their money that they're going to get something of value in return. So don't be so fast to sell. Make sure you put your effort into providing value and building a relationship, and that trust, so that when you say, hey, I got this thing going on, anyone that's interested, here you go, you will have people interested because they're interested in you and your product, and they've listened to you and they like your story.
Yeah, exactly. And then when you tap your influencers into it, they're telling the same story. And it's a like-minded situation of two people working together and them just telling people how much they like what you do or how much they like what your product looks like or whatever. And it's not a sales pitch. It's just a story. And when you look at it, fundamentally what marketing should be and what it comes down to is everybody says, no, you have to tell a story and or you have to put out content.
What's that mean?
Yeah, nobody actually tells anybody what that even means. They're just like, hey, I'm a talking head. Tell a story, do content. That's it. Talk to you in 2 weeks. That's $100. But what we really need to look at is, okay, if you want me to tell a story and you want me to be unique in that story and I need to be real in that story and human in that story, I need to learn and understand how to tell a continuous story. And so I need to take, if I'm a large organization, this is department organized. If I'm a small organization, it's just everybody together in one. And it's taking every single person who's involved from your staff to your best clients and getting them to tell a story in a sort of mini series. So here's my story. I'm going to have episodes that come out every week. I'm going to talk about what's going on. You're going to be entertained. And then we're going to bring on clients. They're going to do the same thing. We might lead the clients into talking what they're doing because they're obviously not going to be prepped for it. And then you have this whole thing that wraps up into this cool story that your business tells over time and that people look forward to watching. And when you look at what this does is everybody's worried about Facebook's new algorithm. Oh, you can't use stupid clickbait tactics. Oh, no, you can't use things that trick people. Oh, Facebook doesn't want businesses that are going to prey on people to get them to buy their stupid products. Oh, no, what are we going to do? Oh, you just have to be human and unique. So you put out things that people are going to want to watch. People are going to want to share. People are going to want to interact.
Jersey Shore.
Yeah. Gym tan laundry. And so when people want to interact with it and they want to be part of it, they share it, they laugh. If you get a laughy face, you're a winner. And that's what you need to do. Just be real. Pretend like you're a person. Your business is a person and you're interacting with people like this. Like the other day, I put up a picture from the gym that said, warm up, drink coffee, cool down, drink mimosas. Just put two pictures together, slapped it on Facebook, and it ended up getting a ton of organic reach. And so that's the kind of things that you want. It's not just like buy our products. Direct marketing is going to get crushed with the new Facebook algorithm, and the marketing that's more relationship driven is going to get a lot more potential, and it's going to get in front of a lot more people because Facebook just wants people to enjoy their experience.
Well, it's just because it's a win for them. I mean, with Facebook, it just knows, and that is the Jersey Shore effect, right? People want to see the story. They want to see, pain and happiness, and they want to feel the emotions with you. And you can't do that in advertisement. So it's got to be a combination. A really good program is a combination of everything, and it's reanalyzing everything. So what's working today might not work next week, and maybe this is what's working for this first quarter of 2018. Maybe we need to make some adjustments. Shift the storyline a little bit, or talk about what's relevant going on in our businesses seasonally, or whatever it is. It's something that's always changing. And so think of marketing more like the organic side, not one set way to be successful, a combination of everything. And you're a winner.
Exactly. It's a whole spider web that works together, and it has to develop a relationship with people and make them want to like you. And then you win.
Win.
Well, this
was a good wing it show, right, Shan?
Yeah, this was a great show. We had a lot of cool topics. I think people will enjoy it. I think they'll download it, they'll listen to it, and then sunshine and gumdrops will rain down across the world.
That's got to be illegal somewhere.
Yeah,
sunshine 100%. And gumdrops.
Yeah,
good stuff.
Sunshine and gumdrop land. All right, you guys. Sir. It's been fun, Dave. You guys, will see you maybe tomorrow. I'm headed off to Australia Wednesday evening. I'll end up there 2 days later magically, but we'll try to get a couple shows in this week, and then we will see you when we see you.
See ya. Might see you tomorrow. Later.